Welcome back. Hello. If you are new here, my name is Erika Jane, and we are going to jump right into this video. Today, we are making quite a few recipes. Right now, I'm starting off with my easy all butter flaky pie crust. So you're going to want to go ahead and get 1 cup of very cold unsalted butter. I like to chop mine into cubes and then put it in the freezer for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And then you're just going to combine that with 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, and I like to use sugar in this recipe, especially when I'm making a sweet pie, but that is totally optional. So I'm going to use a tablespoon of sugar here, and you're just going to combine the butter with the flour, salt, and sugar mixture until it's a light crumb texture. Once you have the butter all mixed in, you're going to add about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of ice cold water. So I just use tap water, but you are welcome to put some water in the freezer, not too long or else you have ice, But yeah, that works great, and just add it until the dough combines. So you'll see the texture here just until it sticks. So a good way to test is to pinch your dough, and if it doesn't fall apart, you're good. Now, my favorite way to wrap pie dough is to put 1 piece of parchment paper in between the 2 discs, and then you're going to wrap that with saran wrap or plastic wrap. I'm just leaving that in the fridge overnight, and I'm going to move on to baking some cakes. Okay, bakery hack. Grab a piece of parchment paper and measure roughly around your cake pan, and then you're going to cut into each of the corners. Now it will fit in your circle cake pan. So much easier. Okay, jumping into making the actual cake batter. So I like to use a recipe from Sally's Baking Addiction, and I kind of just alter it depending on what I'm using it for. So it's just the regular vanilla cake recipe here. And I will link this recipe and the chocolate cupcake recipe I'm using below as well, so you have those. Now, one thing that has changed the game for me in terms of my cakes is to mix the butter with the sugar for way longer than you would think. Now, this is called emulsifying. You might want to look into this for yourself, but basically you're combining the butter and it's emulsifying it, but it's going to create a much fluffier texture in your baked good. So I try and mix mine for about 2 to 3 minutes, and just watch it towards the end so your butter doesn't start to separate. All right, now coming on to the eggs. So in this vanilla cake recipe, it actually calls for about 5 eggs, but you're going to be using 3 whole eggs and just 2 egg whites on top of that. So the egg whites are going to create a fluffier dough, or I guess batter, and create a better crumb in your cake. Right, and in this cake, I use lots of vanilla. I don't even measure it. I just add a lot. But the recipe does call for 1 tablespoon. So yeah, there's quite a substantial amount of vanilla. And here I'm also mixing up a chocolate cupcake recipe, which I will include below. And this is just for 12 cupcakes or one single 9-inch cake pan. Now I prepared some buttermilk earlier and I forgot to film it, but it's just almond milk and then a tablespoon of lemon juice, and then you leave that to sit for about 10 minutes. So both recipes call for buttermilk, so it was kind of perfect. So I'm just going to add that kind of back and forth as I add the dry ingredients and just mix it on low here. And this is what the batter looks like at the end, and this is the vanilla cake. And once you have your batter all scooped, you're going to bake this at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 18 minutes for the cupcakes and about 26 to 32 for the cakes, kind of depending on your oven. We just have a convection electric oven, so if you have a gas oven, it will likely be shorter. Now, coming on to some sugar cookies, also another recipe from Sally's Baking Addiction. It is beautiful, such a beautiful recipe. You cannot go wrong. I will include that below as well. Now we are back to the pie crust. So I am making 2 pumpkin pies, one for our neighbor who is the sweetest person and is watching our cat for us. So there's 1 pumpkin pie, and then the other we are going to be bringing with us. One is in the shape of a pumpkin, and the other is just a fun regular circle. Now, I find with my pie dough, I like to lay it over my arm and bring it to the pie dish, and then gently go around in a circle and press the pie dough into place. And then you can cut around the edges and you have a more accurate idea of how much dough you'll need. One of my favorite ways to decorate the pie crust is just using the edge of a knife. So I like using this one because it has a little indent and it makes a nicer pattern, I find. But you can do this with a fork, you could do this with your thumb, really anything. So I'm going to go around the whole pie, and then you're just going to want to grab a fork and just put some air holes in the bottom. So this is going to prevent any major bubbles in your pie crust. Now, when you're baking your pie crust, if you're doing a blind bake, which I am going to do for this one, you're going to want to put something to weigh it down. So if you have another pie pan the same size, I would recommend doing that. You can also use glass mason jars and just put 2 in there, or however many will fit. I've also seen people use beans or things like that. So you can get creative. You don't have to use a pie pan or jars, whatever you have in your house, really. All right, and I'm just gonna go ahead and make the pumpkin pie filling, and I am just using the jarred pumpkin pie from E.D. Smith. Sometimes I will make my own, but this year I'm just using the canned pumpkin pie filling. Delicious, quick, amazing. So you just combine that with evaporated milk and then just put that into your pie crust. Now, I don't know about you, but my pumpkin pies always take substantially longer than the recipe calls for. Like, I think it baked for maybe an hour and it said 30 minutes. So definitely just keep testing it. I find the best way is to stick a knife in, and if it comes out clean, you're good. Getting the pumpkin pies in the oven now, I'm going to move on to decorating some sugar cookies. So we just have a few varieties, some cats, bats, we got some pumpkins, some ghosts, and I just went and made really only 2 colors, and then I have white as well. So white, kind of a grayish black, and then an orange. Now to get this gray, I actually used blue, red, and brown to get this shade. I was hoping for more of a black color, but it did work out really well with this grayish tone. Okay, pumpkin pies are out of the oven and we are moving on to icing the cake. So we are also celebrating some birthdays, so we have some cake and cupcakes going along. And for this, it's just the vanilla batter that I made earlier, and I'm using a vanilla buttercream recipe, slightly varied from Sally's baking addiction. I use less butter, and in this one I did use regular milk, but I generally use almond milk. Now, I find it helps to just do a crumb coat for myself because I am quite a messy icer most of the time. So I like to do this one coat and then I'll put it in the fridge or the freezer for a little bit and then come back around with another round of icing to get that smooth look that other cakes have. I'm just going to jump over to icing the cupcakes, and I'm just using the same icing that I used for the cake. So we're just having chocolate cupcakes with vanilla buttercream, and I just am using the 1M tip from Wilton just to make the rose-like swirl. And then I had candy corn and those pumpkin mellow cream things on hand. So I thought that would be a fun touch for like Halloween, Thanksgiving, just like October fun vibes, you know? So yeah, I really liked how that turned out. And there we go. We got cupcakes, sugar cookies, couple pumpkin pies. If you like this video, I think you will love this next video of my cinnamon roll recipe. You can check that out here. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.